It's been 15 years since the Marvel Cinematic Universe began with the first Iron Man movie. 32 films have been released since then, all taking place in the same continuity. But which ones are the best, and which are the absolute worst? I've employed highly scientific methods to rank them all in some sort of order. At 32, Eternals. It's beautifully shot but a bit of a slog to watch. You don't care about any of the characters, and nothing that happens is ever referenced again. So you can easily skip it. 31. The Incredible Hulk. This barely qualifies as an MCU movie. It's just a painfully average Hulk movie, with none of the visual flair of Ang Lee's version. At 30. Thor: The Dark World. A terrible attempt at a sequel that just about killed the Thor franchise stone dead. And nobody would have minded if it had. 29. Black Widow. This was made after the character had already been killed off in Avengers. As a showcase for Scarlett Johansson's character, it comes far too late, and is clearly just made to introduce her family, who will be supporting characters in Marvel going forward. At 28, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. A brave attempt at making a sequel without the hero or the villain of the first movie. It didn't really work, but at least they tried. At 27, Ant-Man and the Wasp: QUANTUMANIA. This one ditches the small scale of the first two movies and plunges them into a world of CGI, which looks very pretty but doesn't really work. Jonathan Majors gives a good performance, but it's the last one he'll ever do for Marvel. So enjoy it while you can. 26. Captain Marvel. The 90s setting helped set it apart from the other Marvel movies, and the young versions of characters like Fury and Coulson are definitely worth seeing. But the main character being amnesiac means that she's a bit of a blank slate, so it's difficult to care about her. 25. Ant-Man and the Wasp. A forgettable sequel that never reaches the heights of the original, and features some of the most useless villains in MCU history. 24. Thor: Love and Thunder. This is a clear attempt to reproduce the success of Ragnarok, but sadly lightning doesn't strike twice. A lot of the humour still works, but the tonal shifts between humour and seriousness never quite come off, and the villain is a god killer who never actually kills any gods. 23. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This one's a decent origin story, introducing some fun new concepts to the Marvel Universe, and with likeable lead actors. We're definitely starting to get to not bad territory now. 22. Doctor Strange. The story's a bit too similar to Iron Man, only with magic instead of science. And Benedict Cumberbatch is a lot more likeable once he's become Doctor Strange, and not so much on his journey, which takes up most of the movie. So overall it's pretty average. 21. Black Panther. Another solid origin story. Introduced an entire country worth of characters, and the hero and villain both give standout performances. 20. Ant-Man. A very enjoyable heist movie, whose small scale is absolutely appropriate to the characters, and Paul Rudd is highly likeable as the lead. At 19. Thor. Kenneth Branagh's direction brings an epic scale that really elevates the material, and Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman make for a very likeable central couple. 18. Avengers: Age of Ultron. Not in the same league as the other Avengers movies, but it's always good to see the gang come together, and the action scenes are as spectacular as ever. 17. Iron Man 2. Still a solid movie. A lot of it is devoted to world building and setting up all the future movies, which does bring it down admittedly, but it's always fun to see these characters together. 16. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Much bigger in scale than the first Doctor Strange movie, and with plenty of memorable scenes set in other parts of the multiverse. At 15. Spider-Man: Far From Home. It's probably the least of the Spider-Man trilogy, but still very enjoyable, with Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio making for a memorable villain. At 14. Captain America: The First Avenger. The World War II setting gives it a completely different feel to the rest of the MCU movies, and it's a beautifully crafted movie that helped make Chris Evans an instant star. 13. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's not quite up to the high standards of the other Guardians movies, but it's very enjoyable nonetheless. And there are plenty of memorable moments, mostly featuring Yondu. R.I.P. At 12, Iron Man 3. A lot of people don't like this one, but I love it. Shane Black's writing direction helps to take the movie to a whole new level. And the twist involving the Mandarin is one of the greatest reveals in cinema history. 11. Spider-Man No Way Home. This isn't just the end of a trilogy, it's the end of 20 years of Spider-Man movies. And if you've seen them all, then the scenes of all three Peter Parkers together are absolutely amazing. And the downbeat ending is very brave, but also entirely in keeping with the character. 10. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. A fine end to the trilogy, with a memorable villain, and all the characters getting appropriate but unexpected endings. I just reviewed this one a few weeks ago, so look back in my videos if you want more. 9. Iron Man. The first MCU movie, and still one of the best. Its improvisational style dialogue and stylish direction means it still feels fresh and original to this day. 8. Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn's MCU debut has a style and humour all of its own, and was like nothing that came before. Still a fantastic watch. At 7. Spider-Man Homecoming. This was the first and still the best of the MCU Spider-Man movies. The relationship between Peter and Tony Stark is extremely touching, especially considering later events. And Michael Keaton's character makes for a great villain. They really should bring him back sometime. At 6. The Avengers. This one combined all the characters from the previous movies, with Joss Whedon's snappy dialogue and massive action sequences. Still one of the best superhero movies of all time. At 5. Captain America Civil War. Effectively the third Avengers movie, bringing together all the heroes up to this point, and even added a few more, with the big battle scene happening in the middle to allow for a much more personal confrontation at the end. And the fact that it all boils down to Steve Rogers versus Tony Stark helps to make it stand out from the rest. At 4. Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi rejuvenates the Thor franchise with a fantastic rollercoaster ride, full of memorable characters and colourful backdrops. It's one of the funniest movies in the MCU, but it also features the fall of Asgard, so it has huge consequences as well. At 3. Captain America The Winter Soldier. The Russo brothers' first MCU movie, and still one of the best. This reinvents Captain America as a contemporary conspiracy thriller, where you can't tell the good guys from the bad guys, and you never know who to trust. Still one of the very best MCU movies. At 2. Avengers Infinity War. One of the most spectacular movies ever made, with a huge cast and an epic scale. But it all makes perfect sense. At least it does if you've seen all the movies previous to this. It also has one of the best ever endings, in which the villain actually wins. And at number 1, although I must admit it's incredibly close, Avengers Endgame. Even longer and even more spectacular than Infinity War. This is really a payoff to all the movies that came before, and rounds off the character arcs of many of the major heroes in heartbreaking fashion. It's hard to imagine any future movie coming close to this one. And that's it. I'll probably do another one of these videos when the MCU releases its 50th movie, which at the rate they're going, probably only another 4 or 5 years. In the meantime, you can subscribe to this channel for reviews of all the major superhero movies, Marvel or otherwise. See you next time.